So this is a quick demo of how to use SSH Client. I have the SSH Client, one of many you can get installed on my machine, and I'm going to open it up. You'll notice there's actually two icons. One is for doing file transfer, and the other one is for doing a shell client, so you're remotely logged in. On the file transfer tool, you'll notice there's something called profiles, and this is where you can add or create a profile. So if I wanted to create a profile, I'm going to call it CS Web, for example. I add it to the profiles, then you can go back and you can edit it. So under CS Web, I would type in minimally the host name. So this is where you'll look up your information that's been given to you for your account. And it may be different than mine. Obviously, the username may be different. Even the host name may be different. So host name represents the server. Username is just that, your login. You notice it doesn't automatically say the prompt. The password. It'll prompt you for that each time. So that's all you typically need is those two pieces of information. I'm going to hit OK. And now when I'm ready to connect to that, I can go ahead and connect by selecting that profile. It will ask me for the password, and you'll type it in, and what you'll notice at this point is that we're remotely connected in. On the left are my local machine, and on the right is the server that I just connected to remotely. So initially you'll see no files or directories here in an empty account, a new account. So you can come in here and you can right click and say new folder, call it junk 2, and so on. You know, one of the folders that you'll need to create in order to serve web pages if you're using the CS Web 01 or similar server is a public underscore HTML directory. And you need to make sure that it has the appropriate properties. So if you right click, it needs to be 644 or 755. You would want yourself to be able to read, write, and execute, and that's the owner here. And then for everyone else, read and execute depending on what you're doing. So the most open you want is 755. The main login directory also has to be 755. You are not able to actually change that mode. If it's not already 755, what you're going to actually have to do is bring up a terminal window. If you see my mouse here is clicking on that, this is a remote login, and the command chmod 755 dot will change the file mode for the current directory, that's dot, to 755. And then if we do a listing, you'll notice that the directory, the default, the login directory, which we're inside of, has the 755, and here's our public HTML and the other folders that I created. But what you'll want to make sure of is everything that you want to serve on the web is inside the public HTML. So I'm going to swap over and do something a bit silly. I'm going to go ahead and bring up Word, and I'm going to create a web page using Word, something I would never typically do. There's much better tools for this, but I'm going to say project XYZ and so on. I'm even going to go ahead and I'm going to insert a picture. Here's one of my kids, so there we go. And I'm going to save this. Now, one of the things is I'm going to save this. I'm going to go ahead and I'll just, for ease right now, stick it on my desktop, and I'm going to go ahead and create a junk folder that I'm going to later delete. But you would have to store it locally somewhere that you'd want to remember, and I'm going to call it silly. And instead of a Word document, one of the things that you want to do is you want to create a web page. So I'm going to go ahead and say web page, silly, and I'm going to hit save. So if I go back to and navigate over to where I actually stored that, so that was desktop junk, you notice there's an HTML file here, and there's a subdirectory called silly files. That's where I actually have the image. If I double click on this, I can open up a browser, whatever your default browser is, and you can actually see it. This, of course, is local on my machine. So this is a web page. I want to go ahead and upload it along with the corresponding files. So going back to my tool for doing transferring, what you want to do is navigate inside your public HTML directory. I'm going to go ahead and put it inside junk, and over on the left hand side you want to find, here I put it on desktop junk, the files. You just simply select them and drag and drop. Now I already had some pre-existing files in my junk directory, but there they are. So if we return to here, and I'll bring up a new tab, the formula is going to be the name of the server, tilde your login, which in my case is GRU, slash, and then the directory junk. This web server is set up in a not so secure way in that it'll display the file contents in a directory for us, and I can go ahead and click on silly, or I could have typed in the entire URL. So pause, take a look at this, try this out on your own. And again, there should be some instructions for you under your course website for doing the basic Unix command you saw of me doing, the chmod 755 dot. One last piece of advice is that for Macs, there's a number of tools. The one that I've used that is free for use, it's an open source product, is called CyberDuck. But again, there is tons of free FTP tools that you might be interested in using. Unfortunately, the one that I'm showing you, the SSH Client, is not available. It's only available for Windows, not available for Mac. And again, I may have provided some links for you for getting downloads off some educational websites for that.